But for a lot of people these days using model view controller, whether that's struts or Spring MVC or some other web framework, usually your JSPs are only in views and only forwarded to internally, so you actually can do this without breaking stuff. There's a lot more issues here that we can talk about before blocking JSPs. So, I got a question. What do the following byte sequences have in common if the title doesn't give away? So, 80 through C1BF. I'm not going to read these. They're all invalid byte sequences for UTF-8. Any guesses what the IBM JVM does with them? This is the fixed JVM. Any of you think this is a problem? It's an empty string. This actually, in the unfixed JVM, it only does it for 80 through FF because they didn't consider overlong invalid anymore. This is obviously very useful for IDS evasion because you can throw as many invalid UTF-8 characters into your URL as you want, and the IBM JVM will ignore them when it parses them. So suddenly, you can be, requesting a whole path and, replace every other, add a new character, new invalid, %80 or something invalid UTF-8 code anywhere you want and get around it. Of course, this also makes it very difficult to write JSP blocking rules. So if you're going to write a JSP blocking rule, you have to worry about this. And there's lots of fun games you can play with encoding, these encoding issues, honestly. The other thing you need to remember if you're going to try to block JSPs is that there's more than .JSP that by default with WAS. Start at JSP, start at JSW are also handled as JSPs, and in some cases also start at JSPX, of course, if you're using newer versions. So if you're actually going to go and try to do blocking JSP rules, you need to actually use the UTF-8 all day long decoding. Got to keep that in mind. Got to keep the decoding of invalid ones, the replacement string, and of course the multiple JSP connections, extensions. At which point I would really recommend applying patch because this is not trivial to do. One of my friends tried. He did a good job on it actually, but it was not very pretty. So a note on browsers, if everybody goes home and starts playing with this, don't forget that your browser will normalize your dots and such. It also does the same thing with URL encoding in some cases. Firefox and Windows actually, for some reason, will translate a %2e into a slash, which it won't do in Linux, interestingly enough. If you're dealing with the plugin and load balancing, you need to hit the same server every time, obviously. Otherwise, you're going to be bouncing between servers, and the JSP that you uploaded may not be on the server you're hitting. So server affinity with the servlet plugin, the web server plugin, is handled by the JSession cookie. So JSPs by default, when they're first run, actually give you a cookie. So as soon as you baseline the attachments directory, you just need to make sure that you keep your cookie, and you should be hitting the same server unless that server goes down. They never go down, right? So on the Defcon CD, there's one text file with a URL to a website because I missed the CD deadline. Sorry. But on the website, and I'll be uploading this, there are slides. There's a tool to do the mapping of your JVM, which actually will list out all the different byte combinations for UTF-8, go through them, and then show you what they're being converted to, and also what they do with the file system. Actually reveals some other issues with IBM JVM if you're interested. There's also a sample application that has nice URLs to try this on your own. Obviously, you'll need to download the trial if you don't have WAS yourself. There's also an exploit for the access1 faults that I showed you, the same one, with the source code for all of the above. So there's a lot in there, and you're more than welcome to send me email on this and tell me that my code sucks. I would appreciate that, actually. So, in conclusion, anytime you're dealing with a barrier between one implementation of a specification and another implementation of a special specification, whether it's UTF-8, whether it's HTTP, whatever it is, this is usually a really great place to look for bugs. In this case, of course, we deal between the plugin and Java, and then between Java and the OS. Now, sometimes we have to deal with multiple cases. Some people, I talk to people about Java, and I had to do Java for my job for the last several years. And not a lot of interest in Java, but these same sort of things actually happen in managed environments like Java and .NET, and Java, of course, not immune to that. And what I really like about this is that you have a small series of these little vulnerabilities that you write down in your reports as low or medium and never get fixed. But sometimes when you can weave these all together, you can actually make something that really makes a big problem. So, with that, are there anybody who has questions about this?